Hello viewers, welcome to another edition of your weekly State of Affairs program here on QTV. I will just start by apologizing for some technical issues in our actually recorded episode of this program due to some technical issues where we had the National Assembly members for Nyamina Dankunko, Honorable Samba Jallow, and Woolly East, Honorable Swaibu Toure. I mean, we were talking about the issue of the State of the Nation address by the President delivered on 9th of this month at the National Assembly, which is a constitutional requirement that the President has to go to the Parliament to deliver his annual State of the Nation address, which highlights his government's achievements and challenges during the year under review, while also revealing what plans his government has for the coming year. We all have heard from the President, and in his powerful closing remarks, he said, and I quote, "My administration's performance need to be examined within the context of 2016 with due cognizance given to the state of the Gambian economy at the time, the socio-political divisions, the poverty levels, the disparities, the high unemployment rate, the dysfunctional government machinery and systems, and the inappropriate use of state resources." That was some part of the powerful closing remarks by the President while delivering his State of the Nation address. And then his speech has, attracted divergent views from all corners of this country. Well, see, it was a quite interesting deliberation by the President in what is his last State of the Nation address in his first term as the President of the Republic.
Thank you very much, Aliu. As you have rightly said, what the President have done is a constitutional requirement. Two is the last before we go to the general election. And I think it was a pick for President Barrow to fight for re-election. This was a platform that I guess he have used. Whether he have used it well enough, I don't know. That's left to the electorates to make their mind on that. But one would say it was the pitch that he has used to win hearts and minds as far as policies and programs are concerned, what he has done and what he intends doing in the next few years if he's re-elected. Again, he talked about what they have inherited as a government. Of course, we all agree that a lot was not in place when this coalition government came into being. But we have seen some of the progresses they've made in terms of infrastructure, in terms of some legal reforms and bits and pops here and there. Again, it is the people who are going to make the judgment to give them the score. If you ask my score, I would give you a different take on what the President said and why I think he said it and what he should have said. And, here are some of the things. But in a nutshell, it was President Barrow fighting for re-election.
Well, looking at it, he made mention of so many issues, the issue of debt deferral from partners, knowing the fact that we are in a pandemic period, and then this is a country that highly depends on tax. It's a tax-based economy, and the country really depends on loans and grants to be able to implement some of its major projects, like we have seen currently, the roads and bridges in the Upper River region. But even though we have some projects that are fully funded by the Gambia government, like the Hakalang Road, the Ngayen Sanjal roads, and then the Kiang West Road projects. What's your take on the issue of the debt deferral?
I think we are at a crisis situation, and not Gambia in isolation. The whole world today is really having issues when it comes to how do we get ourselves. Other countries have come up with what they call the COVID-19, packages of getting out of the mess. How do they, revamp the economy? What is the way out, of the mess that they're in? Because we've seen slow in terms of growth in our development partners. So as far as we are concerned, as Gambia, we need a government, and I think that's what Barrow is saying, that is coming out with plans. And for them, their plan is to defer the debts. Fine. Of course, if you need to pay today, you don't pay, but you still have that money, you will put into something else. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we are not going to pay these debts.
Yeah,
by the time we are paying these debts,
it's not cancelled,
yes, by the time we're going to pay this debt, if, for example, we are paying 5 billion, we may be end up paying 8 billion per year because, these debts are going to be there. But two, I think there are other charges, there are other interest debt services that we will be paying. We may not have paid the whole debt as the payment plan is. But for me, we are in a situation where we need to find a way out. Define the debts is actually, okay, it's a short-term solution. It's not a long-term solution. I think what the government needs to do is to look for a long-term solution. How do we, what do we do with the economy so that we will not have at least 40% of our GDP going to pay debt services? Because I think if we continue like that, we'll end up being in a banana republic where the old institution would collapse because the services actually will not be delivered.
And you have also heard from him trying to explain some of the bills that were passed during the year under review. I mean, notably is the access to information bill, which we are all celebrating at the moment. A quite historic achievement as far as the reforms are concerned during the year under review for his government.
Yeah, I mean, we must commend the coalition government led by President Barrow. We have seen quite a lot of progressive reforms. When you looked at the TRRC, it is something that they pledged to the Gambian people. They were going to do it, and we have seen it in process. And in fact, very soon they will be concluding and submitting their final report to the presidency. And we have seen the Freedom of Information Act, very important, and still we commend them, but we still want to see more progressive draconian laws off our books. And I think that is very important. And they talked about, he actually talked about bringing other laws. We've seen the Enable Disability Act. Those are also very important things. And he also talked about the Water Act or the Water Bill to go before the National Assembly. Aliu, many may have oversighted that, but it is very important. The water that we consume in this country every day, I may not say they are not the best, but there is a need to actually regulate and have a legal framework as far as how do we regulate some of these things. If you turn around everywhere, people are digging boreholes, and everybody cannot dig boreholes. Yeah. You need to know the quality of water, the quality of the sun, and all those things happen. I'm not an expert in this, but I believe so. There's a need to look at this thing. But again, one will say, okay, we may have all these beautiful laws and all these beautiful regulations, but if they aren't enforced, we will have a problem. So I think what we will want to see is not only bringing these laws, in our status book, but also to make the enforcement definitely take place.
He said something, and I will quote. He said, and I quote, "The future is much brighter today because of the opportunities created from 2017 to date. Now we can forge ahead with insightful lessons from the past and the present." What are some of these lessons that you think Gambians can learn from the past, 2017 to now?
For me, I think it's tolerant.
In moving forward.
It's tolerant. We have seen a government that listening. We may not agree with everything that they do, but we've seen they listen to us. There are instances where the government may want to do certain things, and when the citizens make issues about it, they would think twice, or in fact change their decision. So I think the lesson for me is tolerant. I mean, Gambia is becoming a more tolerant society. We are nurturing the freedom and the democracy that we have, where people take ownership of this country, and actually where people are much freer, compared to the last 22 years. I think that is something that when we nurture that freedom and we nurture that democracy, we can move forward. Okay, it comes with limitations as well, and I think that's what the government needs to help and guide, and political parties as well can help and guide, because we don't expect the government only to steer the affairs of this country. The political parties and leaders also must also help in consolidating that freedom and democracy. For example, Ali, if you become a leader of a political party, you're a leader of a political party, and you allow your party supporters, surrogates, militants to, go out and, cause people's mothers and fathers and, call them names and throw abuses at people, that doesn't tell well of you as a leader of a political party. So I think the democracy, the freedom that we have, we must nurture it and we must consolidate it, and we must do it responsibly.
And that's why he said, and I quote again, I will patiently continue to appeal to the people's sense of civic responsibility as genuine patriotic citizens committed to democratic principles and values to give the nation their best.
Absolutely. You know, as the president, he's actually appealing to the people that let's consolidate this. Let's continue to have respect for each other, respect for the rule of law. That's quite important. Very, very important. But Aliu, as far as his SONA is concerned, there are two important issues that I think the president should have buttressed more on, or tell us what he envisaged as far as his government is concerned, and fighting for re-election. That's to do with the land reform and to do with the security as well. Because he's aware, and we are all aware, that we are becoming no longer safe in our homes or in the streets. And we are also aware that when it comes to the issue of land, it's the hot cake nowadays. I consider land to be the national threat or the security threat as far as I am concerned, because every now and then you hear trouble as far as land is concerned. And it's not only the urban dwellers, it's all over the country now. You go to the Kians, the Badibus, the Nyaminas, the URR, these are issues. So definitely, of course, we have the Land Commission, and we must commend them for that. But it's to give them the tools to come out and do the job, and seriously looked at what will be the remedy, the short-term remedy, the long-term remedy to address these problems. I think that's very important.
Looking at the issue of the security, aren't people taking advantage of the new freedom, the newfound democracy that people can now take the law into their own hands, just like we've seen recently, the increase in armed robbery and all that? Isn't this really worrying? What do you think exactly should the government do?
I mean, yeah, of course, people are actually taking the law into their own hands, and they can walk into your house and do anything because they believe when they go into the police, when they get arrested in 72 hours, they're going to go before a court of law or they're going to be released. So these are all factors there. But what we need to do, say for example, the policing in this country, we need to look at the Police Act. The last time that was looked at was in 1957. It is not applicable to our days, to what is happening right now. So we need to look at seriously, how do we empower the police, give them the legal framework or the legal tools, how they do their job. I think that is very important. We have seen an incident that happened in Brufut, for example. An offender a few years ago become a repeated offender where he killed somebody, and a couple of years he killed somebody again. So if, for example, there was a juvenile prison in place, that child or that who was considered to be a child then would have been in that juvenile prison, would have been going through rehab, prepare him to come out to be a better adult. But since that wasn't there, he was out in the street and he has to commit murder again. So these are all things that need to be looked at, and I think President Barrow needs to look at that.
Let me just take you back a bit. I mean, we're talking about the issue of loans. I remember our discussion with the two MPs. I mean, the Honorable Toure is not totally against loans and grants, but he believes it should be spent in at the right place. While for Honorable Jallo, he believes Gambia still need these loans and grants.
Absolutely.
What's your take?
No one is saying don't take loans. But the example is, say, Aliu, today, if I go to a bank and take $10,000 and go and marry my wife, and we sit at home and just spend that money, when it's time for me to pay that loan, it's going to be a problem. But if I take that loan today and I go and get, or put it in something that is going to yield money, I will be able to marry my wife, pay the loan back. So I think this is the issue here. We have seen Jahali Pachar from the PPP to date. It has never been successful, and millions and millions and millions of dollars have been pumped into that. If that Jahali Pachar was managed well, today we will not be spending 800 million imported rice in this country. You go to the corner shop, everything, 80% of anything in that corner shop is being imported. There's mango juice, orange juice, baobab juice, all these things are here. We can do our own processing plant to have the mango juice, the orange juice, the baobab juice, the guava juice, and we will sell them to us in the sub-region. We'll create a market where we'll create job and money will come back into the country. These are the problems.
And that's why I think the government has come up with this $80 million agricultural project to help, revamp the agriculture sector and support farmers. Well, once again, I would apologize. Like I said earlier on, I mean, some part of the recorded version of this episode had some issues, and we have to record this first part of that episode. But here is the actual discussion we had with the two MPs immediately after the State of the Nation address by the President.
Barrow, in his speech, talked about the draft constitution. Like many have said, it has been on life support, and eventually the life President Barrow wants to actually do something different. For both of you, what can be done different? Because he's saying his government will support for us to have the draft constitution back to life. Whether it's going to be a transplant, I don't know. So you can help me. We're going to have a transplant with the draft constitution. I start with you before Honorable Tura.
Yeah, the draft constitution, you see, like, let me quote from the Freedom of Information Act.
By the way, he was among those who voted against
Yes. Let me start from the, I give you a sample in Ghana. Before the Freedom of Information Act passed, it took them 7 years. Because of the bill, the draft constitution was bring in Parliament, and Parliament rejected it. That will not prevent. It's up to the executive now to take the issues that were raised within during the deliberation and bring it back. Yes.
But every opportunity was there, as President Barrow said many times. That is his legacy. He wants to bring Gambia through the Third Republic. That is not happening yet, is it?
Yeah, it's not happening. Yeah, it's actually not happening yet. Yet it's not. It does not happen yet. We don't know what will be the outcome of the presidential election. Now, the only opportunity that could maybe give the President Barrow to give us another constitution is after the presidential election. If election come in his favor, still now he have the chance to reintroduce the 2020 promulgation bill.
But I mean,
I did not see any seriousness on the part of the government to bring about constitutional reform or a new draft constitution. We've been clamoring for it since 2016. We were opposition, and we were fighting. We had our, opposition grouping, GOFA, and we put everything that we want electoral reform. That's what we put as an opposition, all the collective opposition. And we signed it, we give it to the international community, we gave it to the government. It is the Jammeh government that was not interested in that electoral reform. We can understand that. But now when we take over as the opposition, I think that should be the priority of the government, because this government is supposed to serve as a transitional government. It is not here, all these things they are claiming, we did not bring them here for that. What we bring them here for that is a 3-year transition, so that they will be able to put the country on a firm footing, democracy, human rights, legal reform, etc., etc. That is the objective of the government. So if they divert from that, and they start talking to us about building this place or building that place, that means that they have already left us in the woods. So the government is not serious about constitutional reform. It is just mentioned just for the sake of mentioning, but they have not shown any serious. When they bring the bill to the parliament, the minister that introduced the bill to the parliament was arguing for both yes and for no. He was saying, whatever these people say, those who are opposed, he will support them. Those who also say this, he will support them. He said he was there to be neutral. How can somebody who introduced a motion, a bill, be neutral on that bill? He knows, I know, that a minister should not be neutral on a bill. He should be in for the motion. But he said he's not there for anything. That's just that he's not interested.
But Honorable, one will argue that these MPs are independent MPs. They have their own conscience that will guide them to decide on any bill. So I don't think will the minister.
He made a charge that
yes,
your government.
It's our government. It's our government.
They have abandoned us.
Yeah. Okay, now he is coming. A foundation was built. Okay. A foundation was built by the opposition parties that he is talking about. That foundation was built. We went in for election. We win and then came. But before we start moving, something happened.
And what is that?
We split.
Okay.
In fact,
but we've seen.
You see, we are having a lot of issues. Because members of parliament, nobody dictated them. We went for the presidential election on parliamentary election on individual political parties. We could not last for 4 months The marriage was the marriage divorce. So each member now stay with your own party and your own consent. So at the end of the day, it was not what was planned at the beginning that that is continuing. That one just faded out. And then in Parliament, you don't dictate anybody. The executive can bring their bill to Parliament, but they cannot dictate how members of Parliament perceive what they bring at the floor of the House.
The people I see opposing the constitution bill in the Parliament are those who are supporting the government. So if he says they are not dictated to, I'm not convinced that they are not dictated to. Because all what they are saying, it looks like they are all saying the same thing. This is copied from Kenya, this is that. Those are the flimsy excuses they were giving. I was there, you know. So the arguments were not tenable. They were not interested in and these people cannot say they are not dictated to, or they have not done any discussion or any agreement to reject the constitution, because why did they unanimously reject the draft constitution? We could have gone to the next stage of scrutiny, and that's why we should do the trade-off. I don't want this, I think we should do this thing. But they don't even allow the constitution, the draft constitution, to get to that scrutiny stage where we can trade.
Were you also dictated to support the bill?
I'm not dictated to, I'm using my conscience, but
everybody was using your consent. No, you know you are using your consent. That's how I know I'm using my consent. And at the end of the day, what is important? What was important is the vote. The vote was done. Then it couldn't meet the requirement. Members of Parliament, require members of Parliament that the bill can pass. So that is a decision of the entire assembly, because a decision it took at the assembly is not him, it's not I. It's
the issue that became contentious on their part is that of the how do you call it, the two-term limit. Whether this should be the first term of the president or it should not be the first term of the president. That is the major reason why they said that.
Actually, I would differ with him. A lot of
that is
issues,
what they have said.
No. Maybe that's what you were focusing on. No. A lot of issues were outlined when we rejected it.
So when Honorable Ture talks about you are in serious, you talk about the marriage have broken down. That led to all this. But we have seen things that matters to you guys, to parliamentarians then, were amended. We've seen certain amendments that happen.
In fact, those amendments happened
even not before you in Parliament.
Excuse me, that amendment, that is Section 91(1)(d),
yes.
If hadn't been that it come earlier, before the marriage divorce, it could not have passed. He can testify that when we wanted to amend the same provision in the Local Government Act, it was very tough. It was very tough for us.
So when you talk about the marriage, the divorce, where does that actually happen? Because until today, I have not seen any party single-handedly coming out and saying we are not part of this coalition. We are not part of this government. But what is actually happening?
But what is important is they are doing.
What is they doing?
But no, see everything. What is happening in the country is in the sky. Everybody is seeing it. When we came here, 3 months after the parliamentary election, the unity.
I think when you want to pluralize it, I think it is important you single out because we have seen other parties, in the National Assembly. We've seen DOI, we've seen APRC, we've seen GDC and all that. But we have seen, despite that was actually what was happening at the very beginning, we have seen nothing different compared to what is happening right now. We have seen when the breakdown happened between the UDP and President Barrow, that has actually brought us this mess. And I think you must say that. You cannot run away from this.
No, you have already said it. That means that you know it.
I'm putting that to you. Do you agree with me that the mess that we are in now is the making of President Barrow and UDP?
Of course, everybody knows that in this country.
Okay.
Everybody knows that in the country. The predicament we are having today is that married.
But you were the guys who supported that tactical alliance that so-called tactical alliance
Of course.
just gave back. Do you regret that?
So no, in fact, for me, I have mentioned it even in plenary, if you follow my debate. I have made mention it. The
Is
issue
this a regrettable statement?
of course.
Now, let's
Mr.
move on.
Ture, do you?
Honorable, you have heard from the president in his speech talking about the cabinet has approved the need to review the civil service, pay scale. How
Well,
important is it?
that is one thing I told you, one of your placements, that is one thing I am taking home and looking up to, because that has been my clarion call. And so, when we were increasing the salaries by 50%, I was saying we should deal with those who are at the lowest pay scale. If you make it a blanket 50% increase
Across the board.
across the board, we are favoring the high income earners, including the president. The president may be receiving $25,000 at a month at that time. But when it is increased by 50%, he is now receiving $250,000 per month. But if somebody who is receiving
$3,000, for
3,000 or 1,500 or 2,000, and you increase it by 50%, the person is just receiving, what is the person receiving? So to look at the pay scale of the lower cadre of employees and augment them so that they'll also be able to take care of their families is something that anybody with conscience should look at. Because to allow a civil servant to come to work, even if you are a cleaner and all this low-income earner, you should not go home. Your take-home should not be 1,500. That is too small. So I applaud the president when he mentioned that. And I will definitely look up to that. And if it arrives at the National Assembly, I'll be number one to actually support that.
Honorable, how soon do you expect to have this?
As he said, it is at the hand of the executive. For if it was within our midst, I can say how soon we're going to approve it. But since it is, as the statement dictates, it is their own, we don't receive it yet. But I think this is an issue that everybody should applaud. As the member said, an increment of 50% was made, but still now the disparity was there.
It's increasing.
The disparity, it does not take care of the disparity within the high income earner and the low income earner. But what we need actually was to restructure the salary scale, which I think the government is now trying to.
But you don't think it is time that we consider having a minimum wage scale in this country?
Of course, indeed. Yeah. Because as the member said, 1,500 now, if your take home is 1,500, everybody in this country then will be living in debt. Because 1,500, if you buy a bag of rice there, in fact, there are some bags of rice, the quality one, you can get it. Maybe you can at least have the low quality, where you can have maybe a $250 difference. So that means that immediately you receive your salary, you spend that 1,500, your fees money will be on debt. So you'll be indebted throughout.
Would you be supporting having a minimum wage, as far as reform is concerned?
Definitely.
Definitely. Yes. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If we look at review the salary scale and look at the low income earner and then give them, a minimum pay that will actually take care of their basic needs, that will be welcome. And that is something that I'm looking forward to.
And in fact, it does not even stop. Yeah. It is not even stopped there, because your pension is calculated based on what you are earning. Yeah. So the higher you earn, the higher your pension is. The lower you earn, the lower your pension is. It will even affect it will even affect you positively when you retire from work. Because nowadays you see people receiving their pension $90, $80, or $250. So that means that you work for 30 years. After retiring, your poverty might even kill you. So I think with the government coming with this idea of restructuring.
Retiring to debt.
Yeah, definitely.
So Honorable, for you, what will be your key takeaways from as far as other sectors are concerned? We have had to touch on the health, education, agriculture.
Yeah, well, I mentioned one of my key ones. The other ones, I have issue. I'm looking at the policy direction. My thinking is different from Honorable Minority Leader.
Yeah, that's because you belong to...
Yeah, well, not because, no, I'm not opposing because of being opposition. I'm opposing because I know economically, if you want to build a nation, you cannot just be talking about taking, and then every year you pay more and more towards debt. Debt is not a long-term solution. Debt is, you take loans just to solve short-term. But if you want to solve long-term problems, you have to plan for that. And you have to plan to invest to be able to achieve that. And that's what I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing long-term plans. What I'm seeing is, I'm seeing grandiose projects that I can come to the National Assembly, I can go to the people and say, I do this, like he's doing. He's mentioning the road in my district. Let me tell you, the road from Lamenkoto to Pasamas is $20 billion. $20 billion, $20 million. And $20 million is, that loan was taken by Jammeh's government. That road was being developed well before the coalition government comes into being.
But the road is now impacting positively on the lives of the people there. Yes, the road is
impacting. Now, if we look at the other things he is talking about, those are grants. The president mentioned it.
I know. It's exactly. It's quite interesting. Honorable, I just allow. Yes, we will just go. We will go for a short break, and when we return, discussion continues. Welcome back from that short break. You reminded you're watching State of Affairs program here on QTV. I'm your host, Aliu Sise, with my co-host, Sidi Sise, and our guest tonight, Honorable Samba Jallo of Nyamina Dankunku and Honorable Swaibu Ture of Wuli East. We are looking at the statement by the President as he addressed Gambians in the 2021 State of Nation address. Yes, you were saying something about Lamenkoto Pasamas Road.
Yeah, I'm saying, the President informed us. There are grants. There are grants from China, the People's Republic of China. And these grants were, in fact, things that are negotiated by the Jammeh government well before this government comes in. They find it in the file and they revitalize it, which is okay. But they are grants, and those grants are now being utilized in my region. It's my region, more of my region than, so I should applaud it more than. And when it came to the National Assembly, I applauded it, exactly. If you remember. It is impacting. Mm-hmm. And those are grants, but we must be careful. Because some of the times when they give grant, there are motives for giving those grants. And we must look at the motive compared to the benefit of the grant. For example, if they say, we'll give you this grant to build those 2 small bridges and connect Basse to Koine, we'll do that for you.
Are they small bridges, Honorable?
Yeah, they are small bridges. It's a small river. The river is smaller in URR, so they are small bridges. Fatoto is in fact very small.
But it's big in impact.
Yeah, well, it's big in impact.
So
when you take those grants, you know who negotiated it. You should know what is the objective of those who give you the grant. What are they looking for? If they say we are giving you this grant, but we want you to give us a blanket agreement for us to do the fishing in your ocean on a continuous basis, well, that is something that you need to study to see if they are paying the right payment in terms of the right lancing, in terms of fishing in your river. You compare it to the bridge, then you decide which one you want to go for. But to just take grants for the sake of taking grants, that's something that...
quickly, before you come to respond to that, just to add on to a question that I want. It seems there is no long-term plan in terms of development plan here. All the projects that, as Ture have just said, and also most of these projects are grandiose. It's gradius. So basically, what would you respond to that? And secondly, too, finally on that, we had the president have spoken. He talked about the Ministry of Lands, regional governance, etc., etc. But he has not spent much time talking about the land reform. Land reform in this country is urgently needed. It is seen as a threat as far as our national security is concerned. Honorable.
Yeah, I definitely agree with your last point. Land reform is definitely needed. And then I think government should try and then look deeply into land reform. It's not even within the greater Banjul area here. Even you go as far as inside the country, as far as even in my own area, people are having a problem of land. So the issue of land definitely is an issue. Then I will now come on the issue of grant and then
the development.
Yeah,
the long-term development plan.
Of course, you cannot say the bridges that are constructed within this country, whether it is in Wuli or anywhere in the country, is not a long-term plan. This is a long-term plan. And then the issue of you see, in development, if I succeed you, if we want development, I will not scrap all what you were planning and then start at zero. If President Barrow succeeded President Yahya Jammeh, and he found there are certain policies, positive policies, what he needs to do is not to scrap those policies, but to continue where he stopped and elevate and go. And this is what happened with the Passamas Road. I was in Parliament. Most of the road, most of the grant, it has some grant component and loan. I was then in Parliament from 2015 to 2012 to 2016. And then even the bridge in Yeli Tenda, Bamba Tenda, it was.
So in your opinion, you have a long-term development program?
Of course, there is a long-term development.
Quickly, I will want Mr. Honorable Ture to respond to the land issue. It's not been highlighted as we would expect from the president, considering the issues surrounding land dispute in this country.
Yes, if you listen to him very well, where he mentioned land, lands and religious affairs. He said different projects are in the URR, CRR, that is climate smart. But he mentioned that alongside with land, real estate, land allocation has been a problem. We all know that there has been a sprawling of real estate agents all over the place. And the communities are complaining. Because if you should go to Gunju and you, with a 20 by 20, for example, land, you'll be able to sell it for something like 200,000. You will see real estate agents will call people and say, we are selling the same land in that same locality for something like 100 and something thousand. So where are they getting the land? That is the question. And those people who are in the communities are complaining. So what you are saying is that we need a total land reform. What we need to do, and people are fighting every day, whether we know it or not. You have your land, you go to the Alkali gives you, there's a transfer document. You go home sleeping. Next week you come, you find that somebody has already fenced the place. So what we require to do is to do demarcation, and so every land is documented properly, and so that the state lands are also documented properly, and so that forest land, farming land, residential land, everything must be demarcated and be put in the computer to show that nobody tomorrow will come and say, government did this to me, or did this to me, or did this to me. Everything must be demarcated so that everybody knows this place is this place is this, so that we respect.
But Alcalo's part of the problem.
Yes, they are part of the problem, but also they are not giving support. The alcalos are saying, if you come to me to transfer my land, I will, you pay me 5% of your income. The one who bought the land pays 5%. So when an alkali sees that this is $700,000, and I'm supposed to get 5% of 700,000, they are oblivious of the repercussion tomorrow. The necessary investigation they are supposed to do, they are not doing that. But what is the state doing? Shouldn't an alcalo like the one in Brufut, or the one in Jamburu, or the one in Dundu, that have all those lands, not be given a clerk, that the state would pay, and that clerk would be able to help this person, and they will have a computer to ensure that everything is documented.
So you think the alcalos, they should stay in, or they should be taken out of this process?
Well, the problem is that if you take the alcalis out, they know the locality, they were born there, and we are talking about land tenure system. That is our system. So if we take them out, the institutional memory will not be there. But if they are there together with the local government or whatever, with the physical planning, and they have a clerk who is trained.
But when you talk about documenting this land,
yeah,
when they're all documented, then you don't need the alcalo to be doing those jobs for you.
No, the documentation is that the initial phase, you need to do that. But in the end, it is transfer and
in the end, you phase them out.
But now, even the foundation is not there.
Okay.
Honorable,
where are the lands coming from? You said the estate agents are all over the place.
Yeah,
where are these lands coming from? Where are they getting the lands?
Well, the lands are available within the country. I think this
are they available or are they? I don't think they are available.
Lands are available. What we need to do, definitely, government need to do with have to come with a regulation, how to regulate this estate. The estate are established institutions in this country. The government should have a law that should govern how estates are operating in this country. They should not be operating just helter-skelter anyhow they want. There must be a government must be definitely ready to come with the reform and come with the necessary regulation to at least that make sure that estate agency are regulated through those laws.
Let's now move on to something very, very important. The issue of the TRRC is something he has also touched, that his government is waiting for the report and will analyze the report for implementation. Are you satisfied by that assurance from the President, Honorable Ture?
Well, there is a lot of talk about the TRRC, transitional justice, constructive dialogue, etc., etc. We take the President's word for it. But there is a lot of skepticism on the side of the government.
Why?
Because the fact that the inquiry on the former president's assets was done here amicably and was done very well, and the report is given to him. But how he implemented those recommendations were not very fruitful.
Honorable, do you
were
agree?
not very fruitful.
Honorable, do you agree?
From the eyes of the,
that is his opinion.
Yeah, that's
it
my
is a
opinion.
commission that the president himself. You know, the TRRC and the Commission of Joint Commission of Inquiry, they are a little bit different. This one, the TRRC is an act of parliament. It is established as an act of parliament. Then the Joint Commission was established by executive, so on and so forth. So their implementation process might be different. The president make initiation, create his commission of inquiry. Then the commission of inquiry made his report. It is up to him to look. And then I think in one of the provisions, if the president knew there are some of the recommendations, if he implement them, they can cause something within our country. It is up to him because he is the principal. It is up to him to make reservation not to implement those issues because he knew if he implement them, it can fire back.
But what did you guys do as parliamentarians?
Yes.
I mean, are you going to sit around just complaining about, okay, the commission, have submitted their report before the president, it's not been done as you wish, but what do you do after that?
Well, as I told you earlier, it was an executive decision.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe it will be a different, little different with the TRRC that is established, and then I believe at the end of the day, the recommendation must be submitted in Parliament. So it's different.
Yeah, but if you look at the
quickly
TRRC,
before you come,
let me.
You talked about the commission, the Jana Commission.
Yes.
They are an enforcing body. It's a commission. It's not legally binding.
No, I'm saying the president. Their recommendation.
Yes.
Their recommendation.
Yes. It is not a court of law.
Despite that, but this is
or a ruling of the High Court.
Yes. What you can do if you are not sure of something, you can take it to court, and then the court will take it further.
Yes.
But the recommendation is, they will have the recommendation. If you look at the recommendation.
But they are not legally binding. They are not legally binding. The recommendations.
I'm not talking about the commission itself now. Because the commission has done their job.
Yes.
But now the job is under the president. And he decided to take one part and leave the other part. He decided to appoint other people that are banned from government jobs and appointing others that are also banned.
But that, somebody else will say somebody will say something different. Well, in this, because you are saying, the way the president handled it, you are unhappy. But somebody could say, I'm very happy.
No, but
if he has done your way, somebody else will say, so his opinion.
Exactly. Honorable, I just want to engage you here.
Yes.
Is there anywhere in the president's statement where you appear to perhaps slightly disappointed?
No, for me, because I have to look what the provision of the Constitution said. He came here, he is to come and inform us the policies, program, and how the legislative. Here now I have an issue. The issue is the time of him addressing the assembly now. Yeah. Because if the provision of the Constitution, you have to make sense out of the provision of the Constitution. Yes. Then giving us the report, the nation address at this year. Now, okay, for example, if I quote on water resources, where he said there is an water act coming. Now, this water act will be a carrot forward. Because from now, if you look at the procedure, how bills pass at the assembly, even when you introduce that bill as at now, it will not finish before the end of the year. Then it is better than the address would be done at the first quarter of the year. Then is where also Parliament can make a proper oversight function against the executive. Because already we knew, you told us from the beginning of the year, this is that and that and that and that you want to do. But if you wait until at the tail end of the year.
No, you are the one slowing down the executive. The National Assembly is the one slowing down. That's not his fault. That's not the fault of the executive. Say, for example, the Water Act, for example.
No, excuse me.
The anti-corruption bill. You guys are having so much time.
Excuse me. You see,
to stay at home than come to the assembly.
Laws that are affecting society, you cannot just bring them up the National Assembly. You just pass them like that.
No, but maybe you should have more sitting. No,
you see, sitting also is dictated by law. Though
you can amend those laws.
We can amend
those sitting laws
I agree
to allow you guys to spend more time in Banjul
let me help you there.
Than in Nyamina, for example.
No, let me help you there. You see, when we amended our standing orders, then I think I even talked to one of our clerks. I said, our standing order does not match the sitting of the assembly. If you look at the process where a bill should start until it ending, that tells you that the parliament should be sitting at least continuously, or 9 months in the year, you have 3 months break or something like that. This is why we have a lot of bills. In fact, the bills, the president, the executive, most of the bills they introduce at the assembly is not reflected in the speech, because the president did not receive them for assenting so that he can include them in his speech. But there is a lot of important bill that the parliament have passed is not included here, because still now they are in the process to completion.
Coming more.
In fact, he's mentioning a bill like health insurance.
Health insurance bill.
He said that he is thanking us for approving them. But we have not approved.
It's not yet finalized.
It's not approved. It's put before it's under scrutiny. You see, the new standing orders is saying the Parliament has 16 weeks.
16 weeks.
To look at a bill. You know, especially if a bill becomes controversial, it takes longer. And you know, Parliament is involved in so many things. These people are in ECOWAS Parliament, others are in African Parliament, others are in EU Parliament, etc., etc. And then we have different committees. So our work is not just dealing with bills. It's dealing with oversight. It's also dealing with representation. So if it is time for representation, you cannot leave your your constituency to come to the committee. If it is time for oversight, you have to deal with the committee. But if it is time for international delegation also, we cannot stop them from going.
Well, Honorable, earlier on, you know, you talk about some of the shortfalls of the government. You talk about issue of taking loans. I want to ask you, what do you think have been Barrow's major achievements? I mean.
Barrow's major achievement, I think he said it himself. He said the institutional, he's trying to do the legal reform. That's where he thinks, and also the infrastructural development. I think one can give him credit for the infrastructural development because that is his own area.
We want to know from you what are his achievements.
Exactly.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying if you look at let me tell you his achievements in that area. Where I am saying when it comes to is works, Ministry of Works. If you come to the infrastructure area, he's mentioning Hakalan. This is the first time, they say, this is the first time that the government takes own funds and put it into road infrastructure. You understand? And that is something that we approve. We approve that. But there is also an underlying...
How about the electricity expansion?
Yeah, well, that is all part of infrastructure. If you look at the energy area, you know, it's improving the energy area. You know, the energy area is being...
Those
so
are
you can say
achievements.
Energy... But what I'm saying is that Do
you find it difficult to say an achievement? Or you have to find the right word to suit it?
No, I am trying
it
to
seems
find
Honorable doesn't want to go straight to the point and tell us these are Barrow's achievements.
Yes.
That's what we want. Like you are able to come out and say, you know, loans, stand up, pinpoint the shortfalls.
No. I am giving you a policy direction. I'm giving you that the loans are based on loans.
Okay.
The infrastructure is based on the loans.
Let's now look at the achievements.
And grants.
Wow, let's look at the achievements now.
Yes, and if you want to make that an achievement, that will only be an achievement on one side. But if in the long term, it will not be an achievement. Let me give an example. You want an example? If you take a loan and say you build between Soma and Basse, you take a loan to build that, and you take something like $20 million dollars to do that. And then before you pay the loan, the road is spoiled again. And then you have to take another $40 million to build the same road. So which means we have double loan for one road. So that's why I'm saying we need to be careful how we deal with loans. Because if you do, you can continue to...
I don't think, Mr. Ture, you've made any achievement as such.
No. Honorable, now I'll come.
You need to look at it from that
Thank you very much, Honorable Ture.
All right.
Honorable Diallo, for you, I will ask you,
Yes.
what have been Barrow's shortcomings?
Well, I don't, let me...
Okay, you also want to struggle? Like he's struggling?
I'm not struggling. Because if I want to measure his shortfall, it will be difficult because the achievement weird.
No, but still there must be shortcomings.
Yes, so the shortcomings.
No, and for me, I will find it very difficult to outline the shortcomings.
What about the draft constitution is not materialized?
No,
as
but
we
you
wish?
see, for that one, for me, I don't even one Barrow have the courage to introduce it to us.
And we have not seen a serious land reform as well. Is that a shortcoming?
Well, to me, I think he have mentioned it, and then he have told us what they want to do when it comes to land reform. Institutional, this government came in. You see, allow me to help Honorable Swaibu because he don't want to.
No,
we
help
don't
me.
want achievement from you.
For me, I know what I'm saying.
No, me, I want to talk about achievement.
Well, Honorable, we know that we're running out of time, and then it is quite a very crucial year, election year. Yeah. And then we have had the president in his speech, and I quote him saying, as we prepare for the December presidential election, it rests on all categories of leaders and influential persons, especially those belonging to the political parties, to bring peace and stability for another cycle of free, fair, and transparent elections.
Yeah.
Let the Gambian citizens be allowed to vote for the candidate of their choice without pressure or hindrance.
Yes. We had Yahya Jammeh saying the same thing in 2016. And when he lost the election, he said something different and said the elections were not free and fair. So presidents are very keen in saying that, because when they are confident, they say that. It shows that he is confident. But what I'm saying is that what he is saying, I knocked the table when he said it. Because anybody who talks about peace, anybody who talks about getting rid of rivalries, anybody who thinks about transparent elections, needs to have a knock on the table. So I applaud that. And I hope that all of us belonging to different parties, we can have policy differences, we can have other differences, but by and large, we should be able to work together in the political field without having to insult each other, without having to create these big rivalries between us and pretend to our supporters that we are big enemies when we are actually good friends. He is a very good friend of mine, so if I go to the political field, I pretend that this man has been my biggest enemy.
Honorable, for you?
Yeah,
definitely.
The concluding remark was actually very good, and we are in an election year. I think as being the principal, these are the type of utterance we need from him. And then I believe, looking since President Barrow came to power, I believe he will not be the type of person that would go against peace. We have seen it in this country. We have seen how ordinary people react on him. But at the end of the day, you talk to him, he tell you it's about democracy. He is using those negative, messages people are sending him to build the image of this nation. And this is one of the things that is, portraying the Gambia positively in the international world.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Honorable Jallo. Thank you so much, Honorable Jallo. Time is up. Well, viewers, I'm afraid with that we come to the end of this program, State of Affairs. We were discussing about the President's statement as he addresses Gambians in the 2021 State of the Nation address. I was here with my co-host, Sidi Sise. Sidi, thank you so much for being on the program. Our guest tonight, like I said, were Honorable Samba Jallo of Nyame Dankonko and Honorable Swaibu Toure of Woolly West. Thank you so much for watching. Do join us next week. Until then, bye-bye.